Now I could launch my course
Yeah.
and I could make $5,000 in a month off the course, or I can Justin Welsh it and wait till I have 100,000 or 1,000,000 followers and make 100,000 in a month.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the money side. That's not even the value side. But why don't you sell anything? You could monetize your audience right now if you wanted to. So how do you make money? Do you have a regular job? Do you, like you kind of mentioned that you use LinkedIn for it, maybe, or I got that wrong? I'm just curious if you, and you don't have to go into it if you don't want to.
No, of course I'll go into it. So how I say not exactly on LinkedIn, but through is.
So I met you on LinkedIn, found you on LinkedIn. We haven't officially met, but this is just the world of, the digital age that we're in. So I appreciate you doing this. And yeah, I was just surprised by your content. I think like a lot of people in our age bracket are, and I'd say like probably 18 to 24, and maybe you can open that up to late 20s too, but a lot of kids, for example, I follow this comedian, Tim Dillon, right? He just had these two kids on who are like super duper left wing on Twitter. And like all they do is just yell about how much they love Biden and all this stuff, right? And that's great. And I'm not getting political at all with this. It's just the fact of like they are 20 years old, and that's the content that they make. There's no nuance. There's no other side. There's no open conversation. It's just this is our side. And sure, does it happen with every single side of the political spectrum? Yes. Does it happen with every age group? Yes. But I think that we are definitely predisposed to falling into these kind of like, I wouldn't say traps, but like kind of ways of thinking where it's not like objectivity is gone. And it's just very easy because our prefrontal cortex isn't developed enough yet. And so we don't really know what we're doing. So when I saw your content, I was like, okay, she's speaking from a perspective of self-awareness, of being 22, but being self-aware about yourself and about our generation. So yeah, I really appreciate just the work that you do and the content that you're creating. Gonna dive into it today. There's a few things I want to touch on, whether it's like your circle, right, boundaries, habits, and definitely your faith too before we get out of here today. There's just a lot to go off of, but let us just set like a little bit of context in terms of like what made you start creating content like this. Maybe talk a little bit about it, right? Like what are your posts about? Half of the people don't even know who you are. So yeah, you don't have to fully introduce yourself, but I'd love if you could just give like a hair of context in terms of, why do you create what you create, and we'll fill in the details as we go.
Yeah, thank you so much for that nice introduction. And just to give your listeners a bit more context as to why I do what I do and what really motivates me, I just started seeing a few years ago from that teenage year perspective. I just started looking out into the world and realizing that there sadly is a lot of lack. There's this identity crisis. And, I'd say not only my generation, but our world, our society is really under attack right now with a lot of extreme ideologies floating around and people putting pleasure over purpose. And my argument is, where has that gotten us? Because I would say it hasn't gotten us into great spots. And so how can we start talking solutions on paving, different roads, different avenues so that we can set ourselves up for success in the future? And my mission is to start creating the next generation of leaders who are thinking critically and rationally. They know how to communicate, they know how to speak, they know how to present themselves in today's world in a way that shines light. And so I empower young individuals to unlock their full potential by making wise decisions. That's my main mission.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I love it. I'm gonna throw something in here that I just saw today that actually I'm gonna take us down a notch for a second. But this post made me sad. It was somebody that I had been following for a while. His name's Tom, and I won't mention his full name because maybe he does. Well, it is a post, but whatever. He was talking about his son and how his son's 24. And he's depressed and he just has like no direction. And Tom is like an entrepreneur. He's like a really like successful dude. And, you would think like, okay, your dad's successful or whatever, like that would give you momentum to get going. And kind of the post was just like, there was no, I don't blame him at all. Like it wasn't like one of those LinkedIn posts or one of those social media posts that's just some amazing story. It was like just the rawness of like, this guy's son is just not figuring it out and he's having a really hard time and he can't get his son out of it. He doesn't know what to do. And I think there are maybe not millions, maybe at least thousands of people, especially in our generation, who like are in this in between kind of stuck, depressed mode. And then they're going to fill it with, the things that I've done in my life, which are, any type of drug or habit,
Yeah.
whether it's alcohol, probably once you get more into college, maybe smoking weed more. And like, if you're like in high school, Brielle, I've done everything. So went down that path. And I know you from a younger age, you kind of, not that you skipped that path. I don't think you were ever on it to begin with. And I think that's a great thing. And back to that though, I don't think what I'm saying is I don't think Tom's son is a unique case. I really think that this is like something that's this existential crisis that happens in your 20s where there's like a few different things happening. It's like, okay, the world is insane. Like I see one side of it, right? The world is insane. We've been through 9/11. We've been through wars and depressions and recessions and all that stuff, right? And then so you could just think about that all day and be depressed. You don't need to go anywhere. You could just sit on Twitter or whatever it is and just stay there. And then you also have this amazing world of TikTok creators, kids our age making content, growing on LinkedIn, growing on social media, creating massive brands. I just interviewed a guy in his mid 20s who had a massive organic campaign for his e-commerce brand. And like, he was like 23 and it got 90, almost 100 million views, right? So there's that like, there's like really good side of it and then the really bad side of it. And I think we're trying to find that common ground in the middle. But like, what would you, like, do you have any, whether it's general or specific kind of, do you have any examples in your life of you being maybe in a bad place or like maybe people that or friends or anything like that? Where like they just can't seem to kind of get the traction. They just can't seem to figure it out. And I know this is kind of an open-ended question and we didn't prepare these questions. So I understand if, it goes left or right, it doesn't matter. But I'm really just curious in terms of like, what advice do you kind of typically give on this?
Yeah, and it is a huge problem. I mean, for a fact, 45% of individuals in our generation are anxious, depressed, they're sadly suicidal. That is almost half the population, which is insane. There's 2.58 billion people, or, last time I checked, in just Gen Z. So it's crazy and very sad. But I believe my biggest 2 cents piece of advice would be hop off social media if you're not using it to your advantage, which ultimately helps. If you're not creating a business page, if you're not running something, or simply even a passion page, like get off of there, because otherwise it's so easy to fall into that trap of comparison. We know this, right? This stuff is factual. It's been proven time and time again, and it kills the positive dopamine. I'd say go outside, spend time in nature, lift weights, go for a walk, like start, thinking of different ways more naturally that you can get that dopamine fix rather than sitting and scrolling and comparing and wasting that precious time. And back to your question, I would say my biggest pivotal moment was when I was 19. And this was right when, COVID started to become apparent and the world starts shutting down. Well, for my generation, this was our first worldly crisis. And so I believe that it was just so hard for kids our age to really digest and absorb, okay, what the heck is going on? I can't see my friends. I can't see my family. I'm going to resort to technology because there really isn't anything else to do. But the thing is, I believe we had two choices. We could either kind of have that victim mentality, which doesn't really get us too far. Like, why is this happening? The blame game, this sucks. But I chose the path of growth. I was like, you know what? I'm going to start building myself even better. I'm going to start building my future, using my time, building my skills, knowledge, reading, working out, again, doing all these beneficial things. And so when it came to friends, I realized I had certain individuals in my life, and I just had to pause and reflect and ask, are these people really challenging me? Are they empowering me? Because I know I'm doing that for them. I'm that type of friend that's a giver. I always give, if anything, too much. And so again, at the age of 19, I stopped and I realized, you know what, maybe it's just best to cut these people off because they weren't there for me like I was there for them. Like I'm the type of friend, one of my best friends was sick. I come over in a heartbeat and I bring you a goodie basket. Like who brings you a goodie basket? I do. And you know what I mean? And
I will say that's not me. That's I wish I was more like that. Think we all do.
Yeah, but that's just my whole point is like,
Yep.
when I consider you a friend, like I've got your back. And it comes to a point in life where if it's not reciprocated, it really just is best to let it go because otherwise it steals your peace. And so I think again that was just the pivotal moment when I really started to level up in my life. It started with how I was spending my time, setting boundaries, and being comfortable with being alone. I knew that the second I cut off those individuals, I was going to be alone. I didn't know how long, I didn't know when I would meet a friend, but you know what? It turned out it was like a year and a half and it was worth it because then God did place the right people in my life who truly mimicked the actions and the everything that I do. And that's what you want to, you know, be surrounded by in your life.
Yeah, I will say too, I think you would agree with this. You don't have to cut people off for you. You also have to cut them off for them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if you're not the person that's going to be the change they need,
Mm-hmm.
then they need somebody else too.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not just, oh, these people are like,
Yeah.
I think you would agree with this too. There's nobody in my life who's really toxic. They're toxic if you want to consider them toxic, but it's like they can do 100 things to you, but it's like you were still always on the receiving end of it.
Yeah.
Like you were still always accepting it, right? So it's like we got to take responsibility for it for
sure.
those people too. And I think that's something that is so overlooked where it's like so selfish, I think, to be in a bad way. I think there's a good way to be selfish too, but in a bad way to be like and that's not what you're saying, but I just wanted to relay this point on top of it, which is like, no, most people are really not truly toxic. It's just that you guys are not like they're a round hole and you're a square peg right now, and that's just the reality. And there's just because there's so much emotion behind it. That's what gets us caught up, And so you're also what you did. It's like you put the logic into it. You were like, maybe they are not serving me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I need to not look at this 5 years of friendship, these ups and downs, and maybe just look at the reality. It's like you can be friends with somebody for 12 years and they could be the worst friend to you. It's just because you had those 12 years. It's not a waste of time. Like you had to go through that.
And the choices that they're making, right? That's the biggest thing is, okay, if I have these friends in my life who A, aren't even showing up for me, but then B, making choices that don't coincide with my lifestyle or my way of thinking, meaning everyone else too, then maybe it's time to find some new friends. And there's nothing wrong with that. People might say like, oh, well, you just dropped me. No, I did what is necessary for my life. And if, again, you're not going to be reciprocating time and time again, it's probably best to close that door.
And here's the reality. There's people that you are actually friends with. I mean, I'll say it for me. There's people that I'm actually friends with that I don't put enough into those relationships, and they have never fucked me over. They've never done anything wrong to me. They've always been great. They've never been toxic, And like I can look at myself and be like, I never shoot them that text. I never shoot them that call. Like they're usually asking me to hang out, right? Because I'm in my own world. Mm-hmm. And so that I've created. So you also don't want to get so far on the other side of the spectrum, but that also relates to the same point, which is like, yeah, also you probably don't want to have 40 friends. Mm-hmm. You can't. Like you can't legitimately maintain those relationships. And all of our circumstances, I guess I'll zoom out even further, right? What happened was in life we were given everything. I'm not saying monetarily. I'm saying we were given circumstance. We were saying, here's the school, here's the friends, these are the people in this school. Like you didn't have to go out of your way to do anything. But then once you get out into the world itself, then you realize that you're not around them. You have to actually make the effort to spend time with that friend, and it's not just circumstantial anymore. So, and that's, hey, maybe that ties in directly to, directly or indirectly with you. Cause I know you mentioned to me before, like moving and kind of, I guess, moving locations. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. But. Yeah, that another pivotal moment, if not the biggest in my life. Actually, right after that, 19 to 20 is when I really started honing in on, again, my future. Where do I want to finish my degree? And so it was actually pretty cool because without doing any preliminary research, I remember I was looking for a book or learning a new skill or doing something during this COVID time on YouTube. and I saw this ad pop up, and it was for a school in Florida, and it said, God wants you to be here. He has a plan for you. And I was like, oh, like that's interesting. And keep in mind, at that time, I wasn't really involved in my faith too much. I would, I guess, say I was more of what they call a lukewarm Christian. It's like I believed in God, but I didn't really heavily invest in the religion or anything, right? So, but it definitely was intriguing. So I clicked on it. Next thing I know, my mom and I are flying down to Florida to check out the campus. And I fell in love with it. I really did. Like, um, the area is just so intimate, and the school stands for amazing morals and values. And I didn't want to go to some big party school. The thing is, I also got accepted to ASU, one of their most prestigious business schools. I declined that because not a lot of good.
One of the most prestigious party schools as well.
Well, that's just the thing. It's one of the most prestigious business schools, but it's also the biggest party school in America.
But Brielle, come on, it's your 20s. Come on,
exactly.
What are you doing? You should have blew your whole 20s by getting addicted to 6 different substances and ruining all your relationships.
I know, just like hooking up with somebody new every day, a bunch of drugs. Like,
come on, doesn't that sound fun? Yeah. I mean, geez.
Sadly, that's the path for many. That's what we're trying to deviate away from, right? But yeah, so it does tie into my faith, how God led me here and how I've truly flourished and blossomed from living alone. I mean, I moved across the country when I was 20. That's a big thing, and decided, you know what? I wasn't running away from something. I just wanted to start fresh and, you know, immerse myself in a new city, a new life, meet new people. And I would say, if you have that opportunity, if you're able to do that, do it. You're not going to regret it, and you're just going to evolve so much. So, you know, wrapping up my degree, starting all these different things, innovating, creating, it's just been a time of growth and opportunity and learning.
If you want to change your life, get out of your fucking town. Mm-hmm. That is the fucking easiest. That's probably, right? Like, a friend of mine, right? His name's Ethan. He's amazing. He's been on the podcast before. You guys would hit it off. He's a medical student. He's going to Oxford, but he took a year off. Genius kid. Wrote a book by like 14. Insane. He bought a Ford Transit van and he converted it, and he's driving. He's probably in Arizona or somewhere out there right now. I think he almost hit the West Coast. But it's like, that's like, he just looked around. He's like, I got like a couple grand. I'm making some money like writing online. I'm just going to go for it. And it's like, it's been like a month or two and he's killing it. He's making vlogs, you know, and it's like, that's all it takes. Like, you don't even need to convert a van, man. You could just hop in your car, you know, but it's like the risk. It's like all these kids want to risk their lives doing drugs, but they're like, nah, man, in terms of like, you know, I can't just move to a different place. It's like, well, that's a fucking risk too. Yeah. Like, it's all risk, but yeah, it's just, exactly. It's like, yeah, healthy risk versus unhealthy risk. And yeah, I mean, and that's, you know, a toss up, but yeah, I think that's the easiest way to change your life is just change your environment. You know, you don't have to do anything. Like, once you get in that environment, then you can adapt to it, right? Like, then you can figure it out.
Yeah,
I would say. Yeah, I think, you know, also a conversation that, you know, a topic that we already talked about a little bit, like, I don't know, you probably remember the days. I'm a little bit older than you, but it must have been similar. It was like Snapchat and Instagram and shit like that, they weren't not dopamine dependent, right? They weren't like insane addictions. Like, in high school, we were sending Snapchats to people, but like, we were not addicted to those apps. That's like true. In the same way. We thought it was cool, but we weren't like hyper checking our phone, you know, 12 times an hour. It was maybe like once every few hours, you know, or at lunchtime. Like, it was kind of, since we had this gradual, and that's what like older generations, like, you guys don't understand. Like, they totally don't understand. If you were not in it, having a like developed brain during it, like, you definitely don't get it because you're an adult. Like, if you got Instagram when you were 50, it's not the same as us. It's really not. Like, our brains are different, and you know, and I think like that also has had such a big factor where it's like all of the apps have changed, but we haven't changed. Like, we haven't changed with them, and I don't have shit on my phone now. Like, I have no social media on my phone. I don't even have YouTube. I have the YouTube Studio app that all I can do is check my YouTube views. That's the only thing I could be addicted to, is that and emails. So that's the only thing I'm addicted to now, is checking emails, because I have inbox 0, so I just go and see if there's one there. But that's way better than checking Instagram for me, you know? And so I have a really addictive personality. So like, you know, I've gotten caught up in a lot of shit. And I know that now though, right? But I think especially for somebody like myself, it's like, yeah, like all these apps have changed and we haven't changed. And then if you have addictive personality on top of it, if you have history of substance abuse in your family, right, which I have, it's like you're going to be even more predisposed. And then if you are just like, well, yeah, I don't want to look into personal development. That seems like woo-woo shit or whatever. You know, you'll just keep making the excuses, and then the generational curses will continue. It's like somebody has to break it, you know, but it's just insane. And I have no like real point to make there. It's just kind of like part of this whole entire like craziness that we're going through, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all that. I mean, social media, right there with you. I had to delete it, especially Instagram. It really is, again, what I said, the comparison trap. And it is simply a highlight reel. You don't see all the ups and downs and what goes on behind the scenes. You know, everybody wants the nice house and the Ferrari and the Lamborghini, but it's like many and most don't understand what it takes to get there, what it takes to obtain those things, and what actually goes on behind the scenes. And something I always like to say too is we have to be really careful with that money mindset. Money's great. Money's amazing. It's not the point I'm making. Like, money does buy opportunity and experiences, and we should work hard to make it. But when we get caught up in that always wanting more mentality, we get something, but now it needs to be better, that's a dangerous trap. And I think a lot of kids our age are seeing that, and they're, you know, becoming desensitized to that type of the video and the information over social media, and it just really wears on them. And then they start to think, why am I not good enough? Why don't I have this? And so I would just say my biggest point is get off of there. Again, if you're not doing something beneficial, like even if it means posting and leaving to get your content out there, I mean, maybe you're engaging with some other content creators and stuff like that to build your brand, build your reputation, but sitting and consuming, I'd say start creating, stop consuming.
Yeah, even just talking and just have a video where you just Instagram will put the captions on it for you. Just click post. Yeah, I mean, but that's like insane for people to think about because then it just comes back. Think about any thought in terms of if you've never created anything before, like, and you post online a lot and you kind of get it, because you've been through it and you got over all that stuff. But it's like in their minds, like if somebody's listening right now, which they probably are, and they're like, I've never created a video before online, then all you do is just rack up excuses why you shouldn't create a video, right? And me and you we're just regular people, like, right? Like, we both just have like profiles and people comment on our posts, but like there's no, like, we didn't completely transform our lives so we can post online. Like, I am the same person. I just also know how to do that now. You know, it's just a skill.
Not to cut you off, but I just need to correct and say, talking about the excuses, guys, I literally still to this day, I put up my iPhone and I hit record. That's it. No scripting, no reading off of no. It's just whatever's on my heart. I say it. I set up my phone. I could be outside. It could be in my house. It could be anywhere. So you don't need to have some expensive equipment and have everything scripted out all the time. I mean, I am a fan of writing content and then kind of going off of that, but you get the point. Anybody could do it. You don't need to be, you know, somebody huge. Just start, and then you start growing.
What has that done for you, Bill? Like, so you have an audience now. You don't have one on Instagram too, right? I think I looked you up, but it didn't seem like you were posting there.
No, so
other platforms.
I know my profile is still active. I'm not active on there. The only times, which is like once in a month, I will log in is to support my family's companies, but that's it. I don't do anything else.
Wait, let me pause you there. Yeah. So what does your family do? Because that seems interesting. If they have companies, I'm interested.
Well, that's definitely where I get it from. I mean, my whole family, we're very entrepreneurial. We just got that grit, that motivation, drive for something more in life. And so my mom, she sacrificed her career to raise me and my brother, and my dad was out building his business. So he does have his own company. They're the number one weather company in Oh shoot, I should be getting this.
It's like meteorology or
Yes,
like
he is
what?
a meteorologist. So his company is Weatherology, but
Oh,
they're fully automated, and he has his own app, Weatherology, and he also has another brand now called Anatomy of Success, which is all about just personal development. But he's definitely the guy to go to. You gotta download that app. And my mom, so she ironically, I want to say, was kind of like the founder of being a coach. Like when coaching wasn't even a thing back in 2008, she started her own business as well and really just started to amplify this kind of coaching industry. But again, she sacrificed all of that, which I'm truly, truly grateful for, because I wouldn't be who I am today without that to raise me and my brother. And my brother, he started his own real estate company. So he got married in 2020, and now he's a real estate agent, and his wife kind of does like some of the marketing services and stuff like that. So that is my family.
yeah, because I could tell. I can tell. Like I just knew. I could have like not that I should have guessed, and then I would have been right on that. But I'm like, she's brainwashed by somebody in terms of like in a good way. I say all these terms I use in a good way, but I know you won't take any offense to. This is the way I speak. This
I
is how I
can't
am.
anymore. I'm sorry, that was too much for me. I gotta go. Just kidding.
Yeah, right. I'm out. No, so no, but I can just tell by the way you speak. Like you speak very like you think before you talk, right? And yeah, you don't speak like a 22-year-old girl, to be honest
Thank
with you,
you.
like the average that I think of in my mind. So I'm like her parents are entrepreneurs or something, or there's got to be something here, right? And that's why partially why I have this show, right? Opposite view. Now, my dad was a union pipe insulator, my mom was a bus driver, right? So I didn't have this. I didn't have my mom was a coach. I didn't have my dad was a person that I could look up to in terms of a career, right? And so that's what people will say, and I play devil's advocate as like I try to play devil's advocate as I was explaining before we hit record, as if I'm like the worst person, like as if I am the person that's making excuses why everybody else is successful, right? So they look at you, Brielle, and they go, "Yeah, Brielle, I can now write you off because of your family. Like that's why you're success. Like that's why you had the time to go create this nice LinkedIn profile. I don't even have my parents around or X amount of excuse, right? It comes back to the excuses, and to that point, me to that point, that is completely incorrect because it's not based in reality, right? Like the reality is you got your lot. I got my lot. The person down the street got their lot. Their parent was a drug addict. Okay, this other person down the street, their dad was a carpenter. It's like you got your lot, dude. Like even if, and listen, my success, your success, we know it's attributed to our parents. Like we know we wouldn't be here without them. Like that's the reality.
Yeah.
You can't put a number or percentage on it, but it's just like that's the like it's just so easy to that's really the when people say Gen Z or X generation is lazy or they're this or they're that, I don't think they're any one thing, but I
No.
think what they do like to do though, and I think this has probably been every young generation, is just make excuses. When you don't have life experiences, you make
Yeah.
excuses for other people first and then for yourself, and that's what you use to justify you not doing it. Like it's just so funny to think that somebody would be like, "Yeah, but your parents did." Okay, that's them. Like, what are you going to do about it? Like, what is the actions you're going to take? And it's like, it just comes back to what you've done, which is like moving to a different location, creating content online. Nobody told you you can do that. You just ended up doing it. And, oh, you're having success. You have followers. People engage with it. Great. Like, it's just like, the excuses are insane. And I never thought like that. I wouldn't say maybe I did at one time, but I never thought that there was somebody trying to stop me.
Yeah.
And I think that's what these people think. They think you're stopping them, or I'm sorry. It's like
I know.
you're in a
There's
hole, man.
room for everybody. There really is.
Yep,
There's so much money floating around this world.
that's
Everybody
crazy.
could have success. You simply need to work for it. And that's what I say is anything worth having in life is worth working for. All great things. And that's so true. Like, yes, I have my parents, and of course I wouldn't be who I am today without them. But like right now, this time in my life, I live alone and do I could be goofing off every night. I could be doing whatever I want, right? No, it's holding myself accountable. No, I'm still doing the work. I'm still doing the things to build my future because I want to. And I made a promise to myself for many reasons, even when I don't feel so great, even when I don't feel so motivated. Like, yeah, I'm starting to grow my following and engagement and everything on LinkedIn. But what people don't see again is I was on there for a year and a half engaging with other people, cultivating relationships in the DMs, checking in on people before I even started posting. That's why you see my first post got almost 2,000 likes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, your engagement, just so for people who aren't on LinkedIn, like, this is not gonna resonate the same way, but your engagement looks fake from my perspective, from me seeing, and this is because this is how, I like to be as candid as possible.
Yeah.
I don't have to allude to that again, but it looks like that because of the myriad of profiles that I've seen, and even my own profile. And I look and I'm like, in my head, once again, right? She has less followers than me. How does she have so much more engagement? Like, it's just like all the, reasons flood in my mind. Like, that is so, I'm so glad that you said that, because I wanted for you to say that, because I'm like, I want her to touch on the work, because I know I did the same thing. I haven't done a fucking engagement pod. I took Justin Welsh's course and then sat there, that was it. Same as you. But it's like, yeah, even in my head, like, I'm even playing devil's advocate on myself. I'm like, Brielle, what are you doing? Is there a comment like bot in there?
No, all of
I
it
know.
is organic. And that's what I would say too, is it's so obvious when people have VAs and stuff like that.
For real.
Great work. Thank you. No, I give like my personality and myself away. I check in on people. I send people audio messages like, hey, how are you doing? Blah, blah. That stuff will pay dividends long term. If you're ever thinking about selling something, monetizing more and more ways down the road, people know you. They then trust you and they like you, right? It's that law of likability. And so, but yeah, that's definitely important to talk about, because I remember when I first posted, people were on my butt about like, how is this even possible? Almost mad at me. And it's like, you don't see what I've been doing for the past year and a half. That's how it's possible. Like, I showed up every single day, and I still do every single day, even on vacation, even when, I had super busy days, I still made sure to engage with other people on LinkedIn.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you sell anything, right? It's just so you're just building the audience right now. So you, like, I know how smart you are in terms of this strategy, because where I'm thinking the same thing. I'm like, now I could launch my course,
Yeah.
and I could make $5,000 in a month off the course, or I can Justin Welsh it and wait till I have 100,000 or 1,000,000 followers and make 100,000 in a month. Mm-hmm. And that's just the money side. That's not even the value side. But why don't you sell anything? You could monetize your audience right now if you wanted to.
The way I monetize and make my income is, it's not on LinkedIn. Like, it's through LinkedIn. There's different ways in my life where I've made money from a young age. Again, going back to that very entrepreneurial minded spirit. But yeah, it's the building thing. It's the building phase. And again, I feel like so many people, and I see it, they want to rush. They get, 5,000 followers. Okay, now it's time to sell something. I mean, yeah. So like you said, you might make 2, 3, 5 grand a month, but just wait it out a little bit, really grow that reputation, grow that audience, get to know people, talk to people. And if you are thinking about selling something, which normally people are, just, going back to like the instant gratification, which is very problematic in today's society, pursue delayed instead. Build, create, innovate, but understand it's not going to take a couple months. It's going to take a while if you really want to push out something that's going to be sustainable and the best that it could possibly be. So that's my 2 cents.
You got to be in it for the habit. That's what I'm explaining to everybody now, which is podcasting is not media. It's just a habit that you do. This is just, I did this today. I got my workout. This is my podcast workout that I got in today. That's what it is. It's not how your body's going to look in 15 years. It's just, you got to get that workout in today. And that's just the reality. And I want to double click on this if you want to go there. So how do you make money? Do you have a regular job? Do you, like you kind of mentioned that you use LinkedIn for it, maybe, or I got that wrong? I'm just curious and you don't have to go into it if you don't want to.
No, of course I'll go into it. So how I say not exactly on LinkedIn, but through, is when I was 19 years old through COVID, I actually started taking over people's social media. So I kind of look at it as like a different web of things that I've done through LinkedIn. When I first hopped on, is I've taken over people's social media platforms. So essentially being their VAs, I started making money off of that, writing content for people, kind of giving them strategies for B2B, B2C marketing. People started to know me, knew that even, yes, I was literally a teenager at that time. I knew my stuff and I knew how to market and strategy. So some of those sales and marketing tactics tied into that. And then also a bit of content writing, copywriting. So there was like three things that I started to make money on. And that was also alongside a full-time job. I've had jobs and internships that is more of, a bigger stream of income coming in alongside that, which has also been great for just trying new things. Again, these last couple of years, I've just been like submerging myself in different career fields, different opportunities, because you're one connection away from a totally different life. And so kind of eliciting that growth mindset, that optimistic outlook on life will truly propel you into amazing places, especially if you're younger.
Yeah, it's inspirational, and also, yes, it's just true. Like, it's just a fact. Like, if you sit there online, you will figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, if you sit there long enough, and if you take the right actions. Yeah, I mean, I think that's so. So you don't have to. So you're, in terms of the LinkedIn specifically, like, you don't have to advertise on your post and have the
Yeah.
book a call and all that stuff. It's like you just do it, but it's not like it's a 60-hour a week grind writing other people's copy. You kind of just let it come in and kind of go. And also, you were in college. You were just in college
I
anyway. Like,
am.
you still are
Yeah.
about to finish up. So yeah, and that's where I was in 2021. And it was the same for me. I just had clients, actually had one client, and it was a disaster. Company went bankrupt. Boss was doing cocaine under his desk, and just this guy, and now he's trying to be a singer or something like that. It's just insane, man. Just the places that I've done it all too. I've worked all the jobs and for all the different people.
Yeah.
It's, the deal. But yeah, I did something similar. So like, and we're kind of, I don't know if it was recorded or if it was off call, but in terms of now what you're gonna be looking to do. Or yeah, so do you eventually want to be a full-time like creator or content creator, or
Yeah.
like?
Sure. I think sometimes what people get mixed up about faith is, it's not just like sitting around all day praying and hoping like, oh, oh, Holy Ghost.
I don't think, yeah, like if you do that, no, ain't shit gonna happen, son.
Yeah. And it's like that. No, I take action. I expedite every single day. But when I sit with my thoughts and I pray, I really realize like, oh my gosh, my prayers have been answered from like even years down the road of things that I never knew were possible and things that I just, you know, wondering like, why isn't this happening? Why isn't this falling into place? And then again, as I pray, I see these things starting to fall into place. So that's been a big factor for me. And just really paving my future, I do put it into God's hands. So this summer, for example, we were talking about kind of getting into this new, way of life now. I just finished my finals. I was taking 6 classes and running an entrepreneurship club, an internship on top of LinkedIn and everything. So very full plate. And going into the summer, I'm still going to be doing school, everything on LinkedIn, but I'm starting a new job. It's an internship, paid like great, but again, talking about new opportunities, it's going to be with a law firm. So doing mediation, arbitration. I figured, what, until I graduate, I'm just going to go off in different fields, real estate, law, social media marketing, all of these.
I mean, you picked the best fields, right? I don't know any real estate agents or lawyers who are at, I was going to say, if you're a real estate agent at our age, you're out of work. There's no way you're, I mean, most of them, but I was going to say all of those fields, whether it's marketing, real estate, law, you're always going to have a job.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. But, just being able to provide my skills that are never going to go away, even with AI and technology, sales, marketing, communication, that is my biggest thing of when it comes to, doing some of the things I have in mind. It all kind of goes back to those 3 pillars and communication. That's my biggest thing that I hit home is if you cannot effectively communicate, you are going to struggle with anything you do. And that is just a fact. You were talking about earlier about this, woke left politics stuff on Twitter. Is that the way to do things? Is to scream and yell? Where is that getting us? Nowhere. We need to have healthy conversations and respect one another, even when it's not easy. Because trust me, like as it says in the Bible, love your neighbor as you love yourself. It's not always easy, but if we're open to hearing other perspectives and seeing where people are coming from, then we can have those conversations.
So true, but great note to end on too. I didn't want to take this too long because I want everybody to tune in. I also want them to tune into the next one. I'd love to do this in person at some point. So if that, whenever that ends up kind of working itself out, but this is just the beginning. I know for you, and you're not even out in the world fully yet. Like now you're out there, and I know what that transition is like, and your growth from the second college is no more. And I know you've been functioning as if you're not in college too, with all the types of things that you're doing, but it is a complete life change. It's definitely way different. So I can't wait to see what you kind of learn in these next couple years of full time going out there. Before we wrap too, like let people know, where they can find you, whether that's LinkedIn or other platforms. And anything, if you'd like to plug anything, obviously, go for it as well.
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn, of course. That's really the only way they can find me. But Brielle Wohlenhaus, and just as an ending message, I would really say to anyone, but especially people in our generation, is start taking LinkedIn seriously. Do what we're doing. Really hone in on, maybe it's just starting with one platform. That's amazing. You're starting, you're getting your foot in the door, but put yourself out there and do it on an app like LinkedIn, where you can really start curating your future. Your older self will thank you tremendously for that, for making wise choices and spending your time wisely.
That's a mic drop right there. Yeah, I wouldn't know. You're not going to regret building connections with people in all different industries, building an audience. Between me and you, we have 20,000, 30,000 followers collectively. Like, that's insane that's even possible. And if you're just sitting there idle, not even taking advantage of it, and then you're also complaining about your situation, then maybe create a LinkedIn account. Yeah,
create a LinkedIn account. That's if you're like, I just thought of so many bad jokes, but like create a LinkedIn account. That's the issue. That's the solution.
Get on there, be a psychopath, talk about personal development, wear black shirts only. I was going to say, you normally wear black. I feel like you always wear black. Is that something?
I love black and pink. It probably looks like I'm wearing the same thing like all the time, but I do wear a lot of black and pink. So.
No, you had the pink, so I was like, okay, she's not all black today. It's not, but I feel you though. Keep it simple, man. That's one of the frameworks for, having an ideal life and completely being an optimized minimalist. You know what I'm saying? Once you get on LinkedIn, that's a different type of brainwashing though, but we're going to let them do it. Hey, if they want to get on, you're going to find it for yourself. We can't tell you how it is. So, Brielle, thank you so much. This is so much fun today.
I appreciate you having me on.
Anytime. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. We do have the video version on YouTube as well, and I always forget it on these virtual podcasts, but we are on all platforms, even the ones nobody uses. Okay, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.